then I sip, drink, 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 drink. These pearly whites ain't like the same, 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 same. I did everything the wrong way, hey, hey, hey. And now I'm fighting off this plate.
Welcome to the Backasswords podcast. We're the Backasswords boys. I'm Kyle. I use he, they pronouns, and joining me from our beautiful Colorado studio is my good friend Arden.
And I use he, him pronouns.
Tonight, guys, gals, and NB pals, I am going to be telling you about David Hahn, often known as the Atomic Boy Scout.
And from what I am to understand, this story is absolutely crazy. And I am very excited to get into it.
We get some twists and turns with this one, for sure. I'm excited. And guys, as always, our sources are going to be listed in the description below. And of course, despite listing our sources in the description below, we are not scholars, and we're probably going to get some things wrong.
Like, I didn't get to be a Boy Scout, so I don't know how to relate to any of this.
Yeah, and I'm a few years removed from the culture, so forgive me.
Yeah.
And we are also not linguists. We're probably going to say some things wrong.
Absolutely.
Like nuclear and nuclear, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna mix them up, and I'm gonna interchange them several times throughout the outline. Sorry, I'm gonna fake knowing a lot of science in this outline as well. So get used to that one.
Yeah. That's gonna be a reoccurring theme.
In multiple outlines.
A lot of things.
Get used to that for sure.
Yes.
Now, hold on to your asses, because things are about to get backwards. To quote the Golden Book of Chemistry experiments, the force hidden in the atom will be turned into light and heat and power for everyday uses. Chemists of the future, working with their brother scientists, the physicists, will find new ways of harnessing and using the atoms of numerous elements, some of them unknown to the scientists of today. Do you want to share in the future? Oh my God. Do you want to share in the making of that astonishing future? David Charles Hahn was born on October 30th, 1976 in Royal Oak, Michigan.
That's my birthday, dude. That's
Look at
my
that.
birthday. Except
He
that
stole your birthday, dude.
minus the 1976 part. Technically, he had it first.
I mean, you stole his birthday, dude.
Hey,
Rude.
how the turntables.
David's parents, Ken and Patty Hahn, divorced when he was a toddler. Ken was an automotive engineer for General Motors, and Oz was his second wife, Kathy Missig, who he married soon after the divorce. David lived with his father and stepmother in a small split-level home in the suburban Clinton Township, which is about 30 miles north of Detroit. David spent weekends, and holidays with his mother and her boyfriend, Michael Polesk, who was an amiable but hard-drinking retired forklift operator at GM.
Boy, and did I hear that those guys came in spades back in the day?
Yeah, from what I'm to know, hard drinking and forklift operator go pretty hand in hand.
And I'm sorry, I don't know if this is rude, but Detroit really also fits the bill for this, right?
I mean, yeah. For pretty much the whole story.
Oh God. For the whole story.
Despite the fact that David was shuffled between the two households, his early years were pretty ordinary for the most part. He played baseball and soccer, and this will be a big later, he joined the Boy Scouts and spent endless hours exploring the outdoors with his friends. However, there was an abrupt change that came at the age of 10 when Kathy's father, David's grandfather, also an engineer for GM, gave David the Golden Book of Chemistry experiments, which we quoted at the beginning.
Yes.
The book promised to open doors to a brave new world. It said that chemistry means the difference between poverty and starvation and the abundance of life. It stated this with unwavering optimism. as you can see with the quote in the beginning as well. And this also offered instructions on how to set up a home laboratory and conduct experiments, ranging from simple evaporation and filtration to making rayon and alcohol. David swiftly became immersed and by the age of 12 was digesting his father's college level chemistry textbooks without difficulty. Just to add one more level of nerd here, Arden, when he would spend the night at his mother's house, she would find him awake in the middle of the night on the living room floor, surrounded by various open volumes of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Bro was literally just reading the encyclopedia for fun.
He wanted to study.
Yeah.
He
Bro
wanted to go.
He just consumed information. And beyond that, the information that he consumed stayed in his brain.
This is
Bro
like,
was smart
yes,
in
this
some
is like
ways.
prodigy level stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And his father embraced it for the most part in the beginning. In his house, he set up a laboratory in his own bedroom where the shelves were lined with books such as Prudent Practices for Handling Hazardous Chemicals in Laboratories and The Story of Atomic Energy. He bought beakers, Bunsen burners, test tubes, and other items that are commonly found in children's chemistry sets. But David was not conducting typical children's chemistry experiments. By
Okay.
14, the age at which most boys had a penchant for chemistry are conducting rudimentary gunpowder experiments. David was fabricating nitroglycerin in his bedroom.
Right. And that is normal.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that don't know, nitroglycerin is the main ingredient in dynamite. It's dangerous shit.
And he fabricated it. Where
Yes.
I mean, it's impressive.
Yeah.
It's
No,
impressive
like
that he's doing that.
incredibly so. And it
Really
should have been
dangerous.
embraced in a
Ooh, maybe
safer
in a different
environment.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. And to their credit, David's parents did admire his interest in science, but they were also alarmed by the chemical spills and various blasts and booms that became a regular event at the Hahn household. After David destroyed his bedroom, literally, the walls were badly pocked with marks, and the carpet was so stained that it had to be replaced. Ken and Kathy banished his experiments to the basement.
Right. Right. It's not stop.
No, or do it outside.
Not even outside. Yeah.
Just go where we can't see it.
I'm getting sick and tired of hearing it, David. I don't want to hear it goes boom.
I can't deal with it anymore.
I don't want to.
I can't hear the Lions?
The
Detroit?
what?
The Detroit Lions?
The Detroit Lions, yeah.
I can't hear the Detroit Lions playing their sports ball game.
Right.
I can't do it anymore.
Dude, you don't care about the Detroit Lions. Especially if you're going to be an Eagles fan, dude. Come on. You really can't care about it.
In later interviews, David stated that this change of plans was completely fine with him.
Of course it was fine with him. He gets to keep on blowing shit up. He's like sick, dude. This is awesome.
And he was fine with this because science allowed him to distance himself from his parents, to create and destroy things, to break rules and to make rules, and to escape into something that he was successful at, while sublimating a teenager's sense of failure, anger, and embarrassment into some rather large and frightening explosions.
Right. In the basement.
Yeah. And listen,
He's gonna bring the house down, dude.
does every teenage boy want to funnel his frustration and anger and hormonal confusion into some explosions every now and then? Absolutely.
Every single one, you're right. Every single one of them.
Right?
Right. Right.
Right?
I
Right?
I
Right?
This is actually one of the only things that me and Kyle cannot empathize with each other on.
However, this was starting to get pretty expensive, and so David financed his experiments through a series of after-school jobs at fast food restaurants, grocery stores, and even a furniture warehouse.
You want to do the experiments? You get the money to buy the stuff to do your experiments.
I can only buy you so many breakers that you immediately blow up, David. They are not cheap.
Dude,
You won't
how
let
are
me get the cheap ones. You said they're inaccurate.
they're off by 3 milliliters or whatever. Dude, it's like at no point is an adult just saying like, "Hey,
No,
enough."
not once in this
They're
entire
just
story,
like,
dude.
"Okay, this is getting expensive. You pay for it.
And
Continue to blow shit up, son."
it's hard because, like, yeah, you want to support that curiosity and that level of intelligence in
Right?
a child.
Right?
They just did not do it in the right way
I
at
just
all.
it's
And
like
if you
how is this the first time that telling someone to get a job is like enabling them? You know what I mean?
exactly, dude. Oh, we're gonna get to some enabling in just a few pages.
I can see the if history is going to repeat itself, I feel like I can see the future.
Yeah. David was never an enthusiastic student and was always a horrific speller, which I can relate to. And because of that, he fell behind in school. During his junior year at Chippewa Valley High School, at a time when he was secretly conducting nuclear experiments in his backyard, David nearly failed state math and reading tests required for graduation, but he did ace his science test. Yeah.
You said nuclear.
N-
Oh
I did. I
no.
did. I did.
Wow. That's some big boy stuff. Big boy
Yeah,
things
dropped a
this young man is
bomb there, you
doing.
might say. Uh,
We're talking about the atomic voice.
yeah, yeah. Come on.
Can I emotionally handle this right now? Oh, man.
Don't worry. Almost everyone makes it out pretty much unscathed. Ken Garandi, who taught David conceptual physics, remembers him as an excellent pupil on the rare occasions when he was actually interested in classwork, but otherwise he was indifferent to his studies. He told Ken Silverstein in a later interview, quote,
His dream in life was to collect a sample of every element on the periodic table. I don't know about you, but my dream at that age was to buy a car.
all
Mine
right.
was to have a PlayStation 2.
Just different strokes, you know?
Yeah, or a Nintendo Wii, I remember.
Ooh, they were fun. I miss mine every day.
Where do they all go, really?
Uh, thrift GameStops mostly.
I feel like I have always just misplaced. I
They're
bought 2
so easy to
Wiis.
lose.
I for
They
some
shouldn't.
reason.
There's so many cords, but they're so
Right.
easy to lose.
Oh my god. It is kind of crazy how far we've gone with that. No more like sensor bar or whatever that you have to attach to the top or bottom of your TV.
These damn kids today will never know.
And it's because of people like David Hahn, really.
Truly. Yeah. David Hahn's scientific preoccupation left less and less time for friends, though throughout much of high school, he did have a girlfriend,
He's
Heather,
maintaining a relationship
yeah, with a
throughout
girl
all of
named
this?
Heather Baudette, who was 3 years his junior. Heather says that he was sweet and caring, although, for example, one week she returned from a week-long trip to Florida to find a pile of lengthy love letters.
Okay.
She also said he was not always the perfect date, however. Heather's mom, Donna, put it this way, saying, quote,
He was a nice kid and always presentable, but in the days before her second wedding, we had to tell him not to talk to anybody. He could eat and drink, but for God's sake, don't talk to the guests about the food's chemical composition. He's breaking it down for them to the molecular level.
yeah. It's really fascinating because the starches in these mashed potatoes actually are a lot less structurally sound than the starches in these rice crackers.
Dude. The rice crack.
And not even David's scout troop was spared from his scientific enthusiasm. He once appeared at a scout meeting with a bright orange face that was caused by an overdose of canaxethylin, which he was taking to test methods of artificial tanning.
Right. Right. He went full orange
Yeah,
with the tanning spray.
essentially, yeah. One summer at scout camp, David's fellow campers blew a hole in the communal tent when they accidentally ignited the stockpile of powdered magnesium that David had brought to make fireworks.
Outside
Yeah,
on a camping trip?
in the forest. Yeah.
Where is dude, is this before the Smokey the Bear ads? Like what's going
No,
on? No. It can't be, right?
it's not. Yeah.
Dude, he knows. He knows better.
Oh,
Everybody knows that bear.
he should know better.
Dude, how old? He's like what, 16, 17 right now?
About that. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Another year, David was kicked out of camp for sneaking for while most of his friends were sneaking into the nearby Girl Scout camp, he stole a number of smoke detectors to disassemble for parts that were required for his experiments.
Right. Just interfering with the safety equipment.
So
If this
one
light's
year
on
he almost
fire. Mhm.
one year he almost blows the camp up and burns the forest down. And the next year he steals all the smoke detectors from the
That is an alarming series of events, honestly. Dude, fill in the blanks there, right? Like, what are you,
right.
this 17-year-old kid? Oh my God.
However, up to this point in the story, most of David's illicit concoctions were in the realm of fireworks or at the worst, like moonshine, and I guess nitroglycerin, but
Which, maybe, the kids this age shouldn't be creating those things, right? But impressive still.
yeah, exactly. But somewhat convinced that David's experiments and increasingly erratic behavior were signs that he was making and selling drugs, Ken and Kathy began to randomly spot check the public library where David told them that he studied. Invariably, David would be there as he promised, surrounded by a huge pile of chemistry books. But Ken and Kathy were not convinced.
No, I see.
Mm-mm.
The kid who read the encyclopedia growing up and goes to the library to read chemistry books, he's obviously they think he's
Obviously.
Walter White before Breaking Bad.
Exactly.
They're like, we got him.
But even if he wasn't selling drugs, they were worried that he was just going to fucking level the house. And so they they absolutely prohibited David from being in the house alone. They would literally lock him out of the house when they left for work for the day, or even just on a quick errand. And they would tell him when they would be home so that he could get back in. And it got to the point that Kathy began routinely searching David's room and disposing of any chemicals or equipment that she found hidden under his bed or deep within his closet. He was literally stockpiling chemicals in
With
his childhood bedroom.
she's just fucking picking them up and throwing them in the garbage.
Which will be a very, very unwise decision in just a couple of pages here.
Oh my actual god. This is already a disaster. This is so bad.
But
She's
this didn't
picking up
deter
shit.
David. No, and it didn't stop him at all. It didn't slow him down. One night, as Ken and Kathy were sitting in the living room watching TV, the entire house was shook by an explosion in the basement. They, of course, rushed down and found David lying somewhat unconscious on the floor with smoldering eyebrows, like a cartoon.
No.
See, despite his vast chemical knowledge, David was unaware that red phosphorus, i.e., match heads, are pyrophoric. And David was pounding some into dust with a screwdriver, and it ignited, shockingly.
Right. And burned his eyebrows off.
Yes.
Dude, he's hitting him with the screwdriver.
He was rushed to the hospital to have his eyes flushed, but even months later, David had to make regular trips to an eye doctor to have pieces of the plastic phosphorus container plucked out of his eyes.
Ow. Oh, my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
No.
After this incident, Kathy forbade David from experimenting inside the home. So she shifted his base of
now-
operations from his mother's potting shed in the backyard.
It never ends. It never ends. He's going to blow up the city.
Mm-hmm. He's going to become a
Wherever-
supervillain.
It's over.
Accidentally.
Yes.
Both Patty Hahn and Michael Polesk admired David for the endless hours that he spent in his new laboratory. But neither of them had any idea just what he was getting up to.
Yeah, now they have like no peripheral knowledge of what's going on.
They can't see what's coming in and out.
Nope.
They can't hear the small booms anymore.
Nope.
And sure, did they think it was a little odd that David often wore a gas mask in the shed and would sometimes discard his clothing after working there until 2 a.m?
I mean,
Sure.
come on.
Boys will be boys. you know?
Kids, he's just
Yeah,
playing. Test tubes and stuff, like the cartoons.
But honestly, they just chalked it up to David genuinely being smarter than they were, and they
Oh my
didn't know what he was getting up to.
They were like, yes, obviously he knows what he's doing.
Yeah, Michael said that David tried to explain the experiments that he was doing to him, but they just went right over his head. But one thing did stick. David's potting shed project had something to do with creating energy. He would say, quote,
One of these days, we're going to run out of oil. And he wanted to do something about that.
like Michael, few people who David confided in truly understood and fully comprehended what he was doing. Ken Hahn, who had taken chemistry courses in college, could follow some of what David told him, but he thought that he was exaggerating his experiments and his level of understanding for attention, saying, quote,
I never saw him turn green or glow in the dark.
I was probably too easy on him.
fucking say that, dude.
You think so, pal? Wait, he's giving him like college professor level chemistry knowledge, right?
At like 12.
It's just like laying it on him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you're fucking making this shit up. That's not real.
No. You're just saying the words you read. You don't actually know what they mean, you know?
Go put your gas mask on and get back in the shed. Do whatever you gotta do in there, dude.
The quantum defibrillator that I have is actually starting to take off, and the electrostatic functions are actually starting to make a lot of sense. The mitochondria's powers as well. The midichlorians are really starting to take off.
It's over 9,000. There's two. That's two references for you.
But in the moment, honestly, it probably didn't feel very relaxed, at least from David's point of view.
Right.
Although, looking back, even, Ken is immensely proud of David's experiments, now that they have a certain notoriety. At the time, to Ken, they represented a breakdown in discipline. And as fathers are wont to do, Ken felt that the solution lay in a goal that he himself didn't achieve as a child: the rank of Eagle Scout.
Dude, his dad, he's just like Uncle Rico and Napoleon Dynamite, dude. Like, he doesn't throw the winning touchdown. He does not throw the winning touchdown pass at the high school final championship game, and he's like, "You got to do it now, son." Except
You, son.
an Eagle Scout. I didn't do it, but if you did it, then there's hope for you, son.
You can put that on your resume.
Is that what they told you?
I had it on my resume for
And I mean, hey, and
a while.
it is impressive.
You know,
So you got to do some stuff.
you do have to do some stuff. In addition to showing general scouting spirit, Eagle Scouts have to earn a minimum of 21 merit badges, which are badges that you gain for doing different activities. There's like almost 200 different ones that you can get.
It's like unlocking your proficiencies.
Exactly. It's like unlocking your proficiencies.
Yeah, there we go. I thought you would like that.
And 11 of these merit badges are mandatory, like first aid and citizenship in the community. You also have to get 10 of your optional merit badges, and you can choose from, again, over 100 different badges, ranging from woodworking to American business. David elected to earn his merit badge in atomic energy.
Of course. Because of course.
Because of course. His scoutmaster, Joe Arturo, says that he's the only boy to have done so in the history of Clinton Township Troop 371.
Still, to this day, some say. I don't know.
It's not offered anymore, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah.
Is this
Maybe
why?
I mean, it probably has something to do with it. We're being super.
This might have been part of the reason.
David's Atomic Energy Merit Badge pamphlet was brazenly pro-nuclear, which is no surprise since it was prepared with the help of Westinghouse Electric, the American Nuclear Society, and the Edison Electric Institute, which is a trade group of utility companies, some of which run nuclear power plants.
Wow. Okay.
The pamphlet that he put together goes on to suggest, however, that critics of atomic energy were descended from a long line of naysayers and malcontents, warning that, quote,
if America decides for or against nuclear power plants based on fear and misunderstanding, that is wrong. We must first know the truth about atomic energy before we can decide to use it or to stop it.
something to be said for that, you know?
I mean, the truth. Tell me, you say that there's a truth to nuclear energy. Tell me the truth about nuclear energy then. What do you mean? Then tell me, if Ed and Lorraine Warren say that they exorcised a werewolf out of a guy and they say that they video recorded it and then they don't release the video, what are we doing?
Schrodinger's video.
Did you just say Schrodinger's video?
Until we see the video, it both exists and does not exist.
It actually doesn't exist until the video exists.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
David was awarded his Atomic Energy Merit Badge on May 10th of 1991, just 5 months shy of his 15th birthday.
I thought he was so much older at this point. He's
no,
only
no, he's-
15.
He is a teenager for this entire story.
All of this happened before. I know that he's a teenager. Oh my God. But all of this happened before he was 15.
Oh, wait until he gets his car.
Oh my God. Yeah, he's not driving yet.
No, not yet.
Oh no.
Thank God.
Yeah, he probably doesn't even have his learner's permit yet.
Mm.
Mm.
To earn his merit badge, he made a drawing showing how nuclear fission occurs. He visited a hospital radiology unit to learn about the medical uses of radioisotopes, and he built a model reactor using a juice can, coat hangers, soda straws, kitchen matches, and rubber bands.
Like a working model reactor.
Correct. But by
Impressive.
now, David had far grander ambitions than soda can reactors. As Arturo's wife and troop treasurer Barbara recalls, quote,
The typical kid working on the merit badge would have gone to a doctor's office and asked about the x-ray machine. Dave had to go out and try to build a reactor. He wanted to build a reactor?
correct.
Like a real one.
Like a real one. Walk with me for a minute here, Arden. We're going to get
Okay.
into some science that, full transparency, I don't understand.
Let's see if
But
we
it
can wrap
does
our
help.
heads around it.
It's still, even if you don't fully understand it, it still gives a little bit of context for what we're dealing with here, okay?
Okay.
So David's building what is called a breeder reactor. Okay, and the simplest description comes from a publication that David actually obtained from the Department of Energy, the DOE. It says something along the lines of imagining that you have a car and you begin a long drive. When you start the drive, you have a half a tank of gas. But instead of being empty when you return home, your gas tank is full. A breeder reactor works like this magic car. It not only generates electricity, but it also produces new fissionable fuel. All nuclear reactors, conventional and breeder reactors, rely on a critical pile of naturally radioactive element, which is usually uranium-235 or plutonium-239. As the fuel for a standard chain of reactions is known as fission. Fission occurs when a neutron combines with the nucleus of a radioisotope, say uranium-235, transforming it into uranium-236. This new isotope is incredibly unstable, and so it immediately splits in half on the atomic level, forming two smaller nuclei and releasing an incredible amount of radiant energy, which is often heat. And it also releases several neutrons. These neutrons are then absorbed by other uranium-235 atoms, and this cycle then repeats itself, right?
Just constant reactions.
It is a chain reaction, right? The explosion then causes other explosions, which cause other explosions, and this happens in a split second, right?
Well, and while it is simultaneously exploding the things around it, it is creating new explosions faster than we could ever conceptually understand, right? That's what this sounds like.
Exactly.
Therefore, creating the new energy, its own energy source.
So if you can harness all of that heat and all of that energy coming off the explosions, that's where you get a nuclear reactor, right?
And it's a magic car.
Exactly. See, a breeder reactor is configured so that a core of plutonium-239 is surrounded by a blanket of uranium-238. The plutonium gives off neutrons, which are then absorbed by the uranium-238, and then it becomes uranium-239, which then decays, emitting beta rays, and then is transformed to neptunium-239. Follows another stage of radioactive decay, it becomes plutonium-239 again, which it can then be used to replenish the fuel core in the middle. Literally, essentially unlimited energy.
It
Damn
quite
near.
literally,
Damn near.
it is literally almost magic.
Mhm. The nuclear industry used to tout breeders as a magical solution to the nation's energy needs. And the government had opened up 2 experimental breeders at a test site in Idaho by 1961. In 1963, Detroit Edison opened the Enrico Fermi 1 power plant, the nation's first and only commercially run breeder reactor. The following decade, Congress appropriated billions of dollars for the Clinch River breeder reactor in Tennessee. And hopes ran so high that Glenn Seaborg, the chairman of the Atomic Energy Commission during the Nixon years, predicted that breeders would be the backbone of an emerging nuclear economy and that plutonium might be a logical contender to replace gold as the standard of our monetary system.
Right. Right.
It's a little extreme.
That's going a little far.
Yeah, it's the optimism, I don't know if you know this, proved to be rather unwarranted.
Dude, the glass is not just half full. We're continuing to pour in the glass and it's overflowing with optimism. Like that's how this guy is looking at this.
Yeah, and on top of that, we have a pretty tenuous relationship with nuclear energy and power, right? It's naturally, understandably, a little bit intimidating and frightening, especially if you don't have a full scientific understanding of how these things work and how truly safe they actually are, right? And so, because of this, the first Idaho breeder reactor was shut down after suffering a partial core meltdown. And the second breeder reactor did generate electricity, but not new fuel. The Fermi plant, which was located just 60 miles from Clinton Township, was plagued by mechanical problems, accidents, and budget overruns, and produced electricity that was so expensive that Detroit Edison never even bothered to break down the cost. In 1966, the plant's core suffered a partial meltdown after the cooling system malfunctioned, and 6 years later, the plant was shut down permanently. In 1983, when it was estimated that completion costs would deplete much of the federal budget for energy research and development, Congress finally killed the Clinch River program.
Wow.
If David knew of the setbacks, he was not deterred by them in any way, shape, or form. You see, his inspiration came from the nuclear pioneers of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Antony Henry Besqual, the French physicist who, along with Pierre and Marie Curie, received the Nobel Prize for Chemistry in 1903 for discovering radioactivity. There was also Friedrich and Irene Jolie Curie, who received the prize in 1935 for producing the first artificial radioisotope, and a few others. Unlike his predecessors, however, David did not have vast financial support from the state, no laboratories save for a musty potting shed, nor instruments or safety devices, and by far his chief impediment, no legal means of obtaining radioactive materials.
Right.
To get around that last obstacle, David utilized a number of cover stories and concocted identities, plus a Geiger counter kit he ordered from a mail order house in Scottsdale, Arizona, that he assembled and mounted to the dashboard of his burgundy Pontiac 6000. David hadn't quite hit on the idea to build his breeder reactor just yet when he began his nuclear experiments at the ripe young age of 15, but in a step down that path, he was already determined to, quote, irradiate anything he could, end quote. To do that, he had built a gun that could bombard isotopes with neutrons. David wrote to a number of groups listed in the merit badge pamphlet that he had received: the DOE, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the American Nuclear Society, the Edison Electrical Institute, and the Atomic Industrial Forum, the nuclear power industry's trade groups, in hopes of discovering how he might obtain from both natural and commercial sources the radioactive raw materials he needed to build his neutron gun and experiment with it. By writing up to 20 letters a day and claiming to be a physics instructor at Chippewa Valley High School, David said that he obtained tons of information from these groups, though some of it was of marginal value. The American Nuclear Society sent David a teacher's guide called Goin' Fission, which featured an Albert Einstein cartoon character saying, "I'm Albert, and today we are going to fishing. No, we don't need any smelly bait, and there won't be any fish to clean. I mean, fission, not fishing."
Classic.
Classic. Hey, that'd get me. Other organizations proved to be far more helpful, however, and none more than the NRC. Again, posing as a physics teacher, David managed to engage the agency's director of isotope production and distribution, Donald Erb, in a scientific discussion via mail. Erb offered David tips on isolating certain radioactive elements, provided a list of isotopes that can sustain a chain reaction, and imparted a piece of information that would soon prove to be vital to David's plans: the fact that nothing produces neutrons quite as well as beryllium. When David asked Erb about the risks posed by such radioactive materials, the NRC government official assured Professor Hahn that the real dangers are very slight, since possession of any radioactive materials in quantities and forms sufficient to pose any hazard is subject to Nuclear Regulatory Commission or equivalent licensing. David also said that the NRC sent him pricing data and commercial sources for some of the radioactive wares that he wanted to purchase, ostensibly for the benefit of his eager students. He later recalled, quote,
"The NRC gave me all the information I needed. All I had to do was go out and get the materials."
Wow.
can you imagine that happening in 2025?
No, because if you contacted a government agency and was like, "Hello, I would like
Where can I get
information.
radioactive isotopes? I'm
How?
a professor.
How safe is beryllium?" Like what?
Armed with his newfound information from his friends in the government and the industry, David typed up a list of sources for 14 radioactive isotopes. Americium-241, he learned from the Boy Scout Atomic Energy booklet, could be found in smoke detectors. Radium-226 in antique luminous dial clocks, uranium-238, and minute quantities of uranium-235 in black ore called pitch blende, and thorium-232 in Coleman-style gas lanterns. To obtain Americium-241, David contacted smoke detector companies and claimed that he needed a large number of the devices for a school project. One company agreed to sell him about 100 broken detectors for $1 a piece. And remember, he had also tried to collect detectors while at scout camp. David wasn't quite sure where the Americium-241 was located, so he wrote to BRK Electronics in Aurora, Illinois. A customer service representative named Beth Weber wrote back to say that she'd be happy to help out with his report. She explained that the detector contains only a tiny amount of the material, which is sealed in a gold matrix to make sure that the corrosion does not break it down and release it. Thanks to Weber's tip, David extracted the americium components and then welded them together with a blowtorch.
Right. That's my initial thought too.
As it decays, americium-241 emits alpha rays composed of protons and neutrons. David put the lump of material inside of a hollow block of lead with a tiny hole pricked in one side so that the alpha rays could stream out. In front of the lead block, he placed a sheet of aluminum because aluminum atoms absorb alpha rays in a process to kick out the neutrons. And since the neutrons have no charge and thus cannot be measured by a Geiger counter, David had no way of knowing whether the gun was working until he recalled that paraffin wax throws off protons when hit by neutrons. David aimed the apparatus at some paraffin wax, and his Geiger counter registered what he assumed was a proton stream. His neutron gun was crude but effective and ready to experiment.
He's shooting radioactivity at people. Or
Not
not at
people
people,
yet.
sorry, but yet.
But stuff.
At stuff, at some
Yeah.
paraffin wax, which extremely
Mhm.
flammable, by the way.
Yes. He could have concentrated on transforming previously non-radioactive elements, but in a decision that was both indicative of his personality and instrumental to his later attempt to build a breeder reactor, he wanted to use the gun on radioisotopes to increase the chances of making them fissionable. He thought that uranium-235, which is used in atomic weapons, would provide the biggest reaction. He scoured hundreds of miles of upper Michigan in his Pontiac looking for hot rocks, radioactive rocks with his Geiger counter, but all he ever found was about a quarter trunkload of the pitch blende on the shores of Lake Huron. Deciding to pursue a more bureaucratic approach, he wrote to the Czechoslovakian firm that sells uranium to commercial and university buyers, whose name was provided by the NRC.
Of course.
Claiming to be a professor, once again, buying materials for a nuclear research laboratory, he obtained a few samples of a black ore, which was either pitchblende or uranium dioxide, which both contained small amounts of uranium-235 and 238. David pulverized these ores with a hammer in a potting shed, thinking that he could then use nitric acid to isolate the uranium. Unable to find a commercial source for nitric acid, probably because it is used in the manufacture of explosives, and so it's highly controlled, David made his own by heating saltpeter and sodium bisulfate, then bubbling the gas that was released through a container of water, thus producing nitric acid.
I guess you can make anything if you just throw the molecules that make up that thing together.
Exactly. In the right way. Yeah.
Wow. Smart.
He then took this acid and mixed it with the powdered ore and boiled it, ending up with something that looked like a dirty milkshake. He then poured this milkshake through a regular ass coffee filter, hoping that the uranium would pass through the filter. But David had miscalculated the uranium solubility, and whatever amount was present was trapped in the filter, making it pretty difficult to purify it any further. Frustrated at his inability to isolate sufficient supplies of uranium, David turned his attention to thorium-232, which, when bombarded with neutrons, produces uranium-233, which is a man-made fissionable element, and although he might not have known it then, this was one that could be substituted for plutonium in his breeder reactor in the future. David knew from this insanely detailed merit badge pamphlet that the mantle used in commercial gas lanterns, which is the part that looks like a doll's sock and can actually holds the flame, is coated with a compound containing thorium-232. At least it was at the time. It's not anymore.
Right.
He bought thousands of these lanterns and, using a blowtorch, reduced them to ash. But David still had to isolate the thorium-232 from the ash. Fortunately, he remembered reading in one of his dad's chemistry books that lithium is prone to binding with oxygen, which means in this context that it would rob the thorium dioxide of its oxygen content and then leave a cleaner form of thorium. David purchased $1,000 worth of lithium batteries and extracted the element by cutting the batteries in half with a pair of wire cutters. I mean, is it
Dude.
safe to call him a supervillain at this point?
Dude, that it's safe to call him unsafe.
Yeah.
With the wire cutters.
Wire cutters and a blowtorch for radioactive materials.
Cutting dude, let alone the radioactive materials. Dude, he's cutting batteries
Oh
in
yeah,
half,
those will also just explode. Like
especially back then.
especially
My
lithium
God.
batteries.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He would take this lithium and thorium dioxide together in a ball of aluminum foil and then heated the ball with a Bunsen burner. But Arden, this fucking worked. This method
Of course.
purified the thorium to 9,000 times the level found in nature and over 170 times the level that requires NRC licensing. This was
Wait.
officially incredibly dangerous. Or
And he
not
made
just
it with
David.
yeah,
And he
and
made
he
it with lanterns and batteries
and coffee filters.
and coffee filters
Wow.
and tinfoil.
Wow. That's
At
correct.
this point,
He makes a radium gun.
yes,
Wow.
he makes a radioactivity gun. And at this point, he could have used that gun to transform the thorium-232 into fissionable uranium-233. But the americium that he had wasn't capable of producing enough neutrons, so he began preparing radium for improved irradiating gun. He was improving the gun so that it could put off more radiation to then make his radioactive material more radioactive so that he can then build his reactor.
When he was already at like 900 times the level found in nature.
9,000
9,000
times the level in
the
nature.
found-
And almost 200 times the level that requires licensing.
It's not good.
No, it's not.
No, it's not a good plan. I don't like that plan.
Another not good plan, Arden, was the fact that back in the day, radium was used in paint that rendered luminescent faces of clocks and automobiles and airplane instrument panels up until the late 1960s. And it actually ended because we discovered that all of the girls right here, the radium girls,
Right.
all of them got cancer and died because they were licking the paints and making the lines. It's bad. It was bad.
Well, and they were licking the tips of their paint brushes to get like the finer points on the clocks.
Exactly. Yeah. It was bad.
It was not good.
But because of this, David began visiting junkyards and antique stores in search of radium-coated dashboard panels or clocks. Once he found an item like this, he would chip the paint from the instrument and collect it in pill containers. It was slow going until one day, driving through Clinton Township to visit his girlfriend, he noticed that his Geiger counter went insane as he passed Gloria's resale boutique and antique. The proprietor, Gloria Jeanette, still recalls the day when she was called at home by a store employee who said that a polite young man was anxious to buy a table clock with a tinted green dial, but wondered if she would come down in price. And of course, she would for such a young man. David bought the clock for just $10. Inside, he discovered a vial of radium paint that was left behind by a worker either accidentally or as a courtesy so that they could do future touch-ups. He was so overjoyed that he dropped by the boutique later that night to give a note to the owner, telling her that if she received another luminous clock, that he would buy it off of her immediately.
If he doesn't blow himself up.
Yeah, we'll see.
Wow.
To concentrate this radium, David secured a sample of barium sulfate from the X-ray ward at the local hospital. And they just handed it over to him because they remembered him coming and asking questions for his merit badge project.
Here you go.
Didn't
It's
even
that
ask him.
kid. He's an Eagle Scout. I saw it on his
He's
resume.
trustworthy. It's literally the first word in the Boy Scouts honor.
Yeah, right. Mhm. Oh,
He
man.
then mixed the barium sulfate with the radium paint chips and stirred the brew through another coffee filter into a beaker that then began to glow. But this
What?
time he had gotten his solubility correctly. The radium solution passed through into the beaker. He then dehydrated the solution into a crystalline salt, which he could pack into the cavity of another lead block to build a brand spankin' new radiation gun.
I can't believe this is happening.
And you might realize it, Arden, and our listeners and viewers might realize it, but we don't know if David fully realized just how dangerous handling this purified radium truly was. But he still proceeded to acquire another neutron emitter to replace the aluminum used in his previous neutron gun. And faithful to Herb's instructions from earlier, he secured a strip of beryllium from the chemistry department at Macomb Community College. A friend who attended the school fucking stole it for him and placed it in front of the lead block that held the radium.
Wow.
His cute little americium gun was now a much more powerful radium gun. And finally, at the age of 17, David hit on the idea of building his magnum opus, his model breeder reactor. He knew that without a critical pile of at least 30 pounds of enriched uranium, he had no chance of initiating a sustained chain reaction. But he was determined to get as far as he could by trying to get his various radioisotopes to interact with one another. He now says that way, no matter what happened, there would be something changing into something, some kind of action going on in that pile. His blueprint was a schematic of a checkerboard breeder reactor that he had seen in one of his father's college textbooks. David monitored his breeder reactor in his laboratory with a Geiger counter, and he said it was radioactive as heck. The level of radiation after a few weeks was far greater than it was at the time of assembly. I know I transformed some radioactive materials, even though there was no critical pile. I knew that some of the reactions that go on in a breeder reactor went on to a minute extent.
He thinks that
Finally.
he did it. He thinks that he made a
He
breeder
doesn't
reactor.
think that he did it. He did it.
This is in for all intents and purposes.
I
a
mean, he's
breeder
not pulling the energy out of it. He's not harvesting any energy. It's not safe. It's not sustainable, but textbook definitions, kind of, yeah.
Wow.
For backyard science, he's as close as you can fucking get,
I suppose so, right?
you know? Finally, David, whose safety precautions had thus far consisted of wearing a makeshift lead poncho and throwing away his clothes and changing his shoes following a session in the potting shed, began to realize that, sustained reaction or not, he could be putting himself and others in danger. One tip-off for him was when the radiation was detectable through concrete walls. That's bad. That's not good.
That's not good.
Jim Miller, a nuclear-savvy high school friend in whom David had confided, warned him that the real reactors use control rods to regulate nuclear reactions. So Miller recommended cobalt, which absorbs neutrons but does not itself become fissionable. Reactors get hot. It's just a fact, Miller, a nervous, skinny 22-year-old, said during an interview. David purchased a set of cobalt drill bits at a local hardware store and inserted them between the thorium and uranium cubes in the reactor. But the cobalt wasn't sufficient. When his Geiger counter began picking up radiation 5 doors down from his mom's house, David decided that he had too much radioactive stuff in one place. And so he
Now
began
it's
to
enough.
disassemble the reactor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is where I draw the line.
Yeah,
5
doors
houses down.
I mean, you cube that out. That's what, fucking 25 houses, 25 families
That's
minimum.
crazy. That's
That's crazy.
crazy.
He placed the thorium pellets into a shoebox that he hid inside the house and left the radium and americium in the shed. He packed most of the rest of the equipment into the trunk of his Pontiac 6000. At 2:40 a.m. on August 31st of 1994, the Clinton Township Police responded to a call concerning a young man who had been spotted in a residential neighborhood, apparently stealing tires from a car. When the police arrived, David told them that he was waiting to meet a friend. Unconvinced, the officers decided to search his car, and when they opened the trunk, they discovered a shoebox shut with a padlock and sealed with duct tape for good measure. The trunk also contained over 50 foil-wrapped cubes of mysterious gray powder, small discs and cylindrical metal objects, lantern mantles, mercury switches, a clock face, oars, fireworks, vacuum tubes, and assorted chemicals and acids. The police were especially alarmed by the toolbox, which David warned them was radioactive and which they feared was an atomic bomb.
I mean, what a thing to stumble into.
Yeah. That's
You're
one
just
way
out
to end your
there.
shift.
You're just out there giving out parking tickets, you know.
For reasons that are hard to fathom, Sergeant Joseph Mertz, one of the arresting officers, ordered a car containing what he noted in his report was a potential improvised explosive device to be towed to police headquarters. Police Chief Al Ernst now says, quote,
It probably shouldn't have been done, but we thought that the car had been used in the commission of a crime. When I came in at 6:30 in the morning, it was already there. They're like, well, let's take it to where all of us are at. All of the police.
that's the
Let's
solution.
let's take the A-bomb to the police headquarters. Headquarters.
Headquarters. And naturally, the police called in the Michigan State Police Bomb Squad to examine the Pontiac and the State Department of Public Health to supply radiological assistance. The good news the team discovered was that David's toolbox was not an atomic bomb. The bad news is that David's trunk did contain radioactive materials, including concentrations of thorium not found in nature, at least not in Michigan, and the americium. That discovery automatically triggered the Federal Radiological Emergency Response Plan, and state officials soon were embroiled in tense phone consultations with the Department of Energy, the Environmental Protection Agency, the FBI, and the NRC. On November 29th, the state radiological experts surveyed the potting shed. They found aluminum pie pans, jars of acids, Pyrex cups, milk crates, and other materials strewn about, much of it contaminated with what subsequent official reports would call excessive levels of radioactive material, especially americium-241 and thorium-232. How high? Well, a vegetable can be registered at about 50,000 counts per minute, which is about 1,000 times higher than normal levels of background radiation. Although the Minnesota State Troopers didn't know it at the time, they conducted their survey long after David's mother, who was alerted by Ken and Kathy and petrified that the government would take her home away as a result of her son's experiments, had ransacked the shed and discarded most of what she found, including his neutron gun, the radium, the pellets of thorium that were far more radioactive than what the health officials had found, and several quarts of radioactive powder. David now says, quote,
The funny thing is, they only got the garbage, and the garbage got all the good stuff.
And it was that bad. Wow, oh no.
and despite the fact that his mom had thrown everything into the literal garbage, the state authorities determined that no radioactive materials had leaked outside of the shed, and they sealed it and petitioned the federal government for help. The NRC licenses nuclear plants and research facilities and deals with any nuclear accidents that take place at those sites. David, of course, was not an NRC licensed operation. Therefore, it was determined that the EPA, which responds to emergencies involving lost or abandoned atomic materials, should be contacted for assistance. In a memo, the EPA's Emergency Response and Enforcement Branch, the Department of Public Health noted that the materials discovered in David's lab were regulated under the Federal Atomic Energy Act, and that the extent of the radioactive material contamination within a private citizen's property begged for a controlled remediation that is beyond our authority or resources to oversee. AKA, this shit is too fucked.
It's way too radioactive for us to do this, dude. This is not our job. We
And
have
so
to
because
escalate
of that,
this.
EPA officials arrived in Gulf Manor on January 25th of 1995, 5 months after David had been stopped by the police, to conduct their own survey of the shed. Their action memo noted that the conditions at the site offered present and imminent and substantial endangerment to the public health or welfare or the environment, and that there was actual or potential exposure to nearby human populations, animals, or food chains. The memo further stated that adverse conditions such as heavy wind, rain, or fire could cause the contaminants to migrate or be released. A Superfund cleanup took place between June 26th and 28th at a cost of about $60,000. After the moon-suited workers dismantled the potting shed with electric bandsaws, they loaded the remnants into 39 sealed barrels placed aboard a semi-trailer bound for Evercore, a dump facility located in the middle of where? The Great Salt Lake Desert. That's
What?
right, just down the fucking road.
Wow, you should take a trip out there.
I honestly, maybe I do need to take a little road trip out there.
It's not a bad idea.
We might get some supplemental
Ooh.
materials on this episode. There, the remains of David's experiments were entombed along with tons of low-level radioactive debris from government atomic bomb factories, plutonium production facilities, and contaminated industrial sites. According to the official assessment, there was no notable damage to the flora or fauna in the backyard of Gulf Manor, but 40,000 nearby residents could have been put at risk during David's years of experimentation due to the dangers posed by the release of radioactive dust and radiation. This is why some level of government oversight is a good thing.
It's helpful.
David went into a serious depression after the federal authorities shut down his laboratory. And it honestly makes sense. Years of painstaking work were literally thrown in the garbage or buried beneath the sands of Utah.
Yeah, I would be pretty disappointed too if my life's work was thrown into the Great Salt Lake, you know.
Yeah. And it didn't help at school either. Students at Chippewa Valley had taken to calling him Radioactive Boy. And when his girlfriend Heather sent David Valentine's balloons at his high school, they were seized by the principal, who apparently thought that they had been inflated with chemical gases that David needed to continue his experiments.
Honestly, kind of fair. I mean,
And in one final indignity, some area scout leaders attempted and failed to deny David his Eagle Scout status, saying that his extracurricular merit badge activities had endangered the community, which is against the ideas of scout ideas.
right.
In the fall of 1995, Ken and Kathy demanded that David enroll in Macomb County College. He majored in metallurgy, but skipped most of his classes and spent much of his day in bed or just driving in circles around their block. Finally, Ken and Kathy gave him an ultimatum: join the armed forces or move out. They called the local recruiting office, who sent a representative to their house, or called every day until David finally gave in. After completing boot camp, he was stationed on the nuclear-powered USS Enterprise aircraft carrier, and is perhaps the best that he does not work on the ship's 8 reactors, because the EPA scientists worry that his previous exposure to radioactivity may have greatly cut his life short.
Oh man.
Because it is so potent, the radium that David was exposed to in a relatively small enclosed space is the most worrisome of all. Back in 1995, the EPA arranged for David to undergo a full examination at the nearby Fermi nuclear power plant. David, who was fearful of what he might learn, refused. On September 27, 2016, at the age of 39, David Hahn died in his home of Shelby Charter Township, Michigan. Prior to his death, Hahn accompanied his son to the Veterans Administration Hospital for quarterly routine checkups. Medical staff there found no lingering ill effects from the earlier radiation exposure. Kenneth Hahn said, quote,
Dave was shopping at Walmart to get food. It was around 10:30 at night, and I guess he went to get some groceries. They found him in the restroom about 20 minutes later, deceased. There was no way to revive him. I'm proud of my son, and I'm very sad that he's gone. He could have done a lot more in this world.
and he did die due to a drug overdose. It was something that he struggled a lot with in the later years of his life. He had several run-ins with the law because of it. And
Right.
David Charles Hahn was laid to rest at Great Lakes Military Cemetery in Holly, Michigan. And that, my little protons and neutrons, is the story of David Hahn, the Atomic Boy Scout.
Wow. What a story. And first and foremost, can I just say, phenomenal work on this outline, Kyle.
Thank you.
Really, really good job. I mean, okay. Whew.
Yeah,
We kind of end on a little bit of a bummer.
yeah, in there, but I mean to celebrate for a second,
Mm,
that's a generational level of intelligence that we're talking about here.
right.
And it truly is sad that he couldn't access the resources or didn't accept the resources when they were given to him to truly harness that in a productive way, you know.
Mhm.
It's really sad. Like, yeah, it just sucks.
Especially while he was younger, there was so much potential to harness that and
Yeah, he could have
send
just
him to
gotten
college.
he could have just gotten an internship at the nuclear plant or something, you know?
Mm,
Like, just it sucks. It really does.
yeah.
And, you
Mhm.
know, to see a fellow Eagle Scout get tanked like that, you know,
Yeah.
it's rough.
Yeah. And I really do feel like that would be what I would say is my back-assward stance, is unfortunately just so sad that we did not I say we like I was there. I just
Right.
mean like the people around him did not help manifest this in a more positive way.
Exactly.
And then it ended up affecting all these people and, he had to like stop doing the thing that he loved doing, something that made him so
Yeah,
passionate. It's so disappointing.
it really is. And I would agree with that. I would just also add, not an excuse to do unregulated nuclear experiments in your mom's potting shed, you know?
Right.
That the level of danger that put not just him, but literally tens of thousands of people in is unacceptable, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Again, borderline supervillain shit that he's
Yeah.
doing in that potting shed, you know?
Yeah. And he shouldn't like they should have stopped him a long time ago
Yeah.
from doing that. And again, harnessing
And it
that
was
in a different way.
redirected, exactly, not into the backyard potting shed,
No.
you know? Don't
No.
put him brush him under the carpet, but yeah,
Dude, so many adults failed at so many points in this episode. I
truly,
mean, like
truly.
the cops were like, "There's a bomb in the back of this car, so let's take it right to where we all work." Mhm. We'll stop at Krispy Kreme on the way. Sorry.
Well, thank you so much for listening to the podcast, everybody.
Thank you so much. It means so much that you folks could be doing anything with your time, and you're listening to me and Kyle tell you stories about Atomic Boy Scouts, and it means the world. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. You can subscribe and review, and if you think someone else will enjoy the show, please share it with them. Go ahead and hit that bell and
Subscribe,
turn notifications on. Subscribe.
all of that good
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Good job,
And if
Kyle.
you do genuinely enjoy the content that we're making here, please support us on Patreon. It genuinely blows us away. It means the absolute world to us. That's patreon.com/backasspod. We have a $1 tier. We have a $5 tier. If you're going to subscribe, go check it out. You don't need the info from me. Go ahead and follow the podcast on all of your favorite socials in the description as well. We appreciate it so much. You can keep up with us there. I'm Kyle.
I'm Arden.
And we will see you guys next week, unless some kid in your fucking town decides that he needs to get his kaiju merit badge, and all of a sudden Mothra is showing up and handing out pamphlets at the community center talking about recycling so that you can stay weird and safe. Fuck.
The danger is real,
Oh, it's weird
my
and
friends.
safe.
Please watch out for Mothra.
Okay. I brush my teeth and I sip, drink. It's pearly white and look the same.
Let me just try unplugging the camera. Or can I literally just do this? Dude. How is this a fucking $700 computer?